All right, looks like we've kind of leveled off here at our participants. So I'm gonna go ahead and call it that we get going. So we really value everyone's time this evening. So thank you so much for joining. My name is Kelly Bray and I am the Chief of Sustainability at the County of San Diego. I'm joined tonight by a number of friends that are gonna help us facilitate this, as well as several of the CAP team that work in the Planning and Development Services Department with me. I first want to just provide a little context for tonight before we get started. Not sure how many of you follow county politics very closely, but for those that haven't been paying attention, it is a new day at the County of San Diego. We seated 3 new board members in January, and I will say that the policy shift has been quite dramatic, and it is really exciting to now be a part of this process here. It's part of what brings us together tonight. It's part of what gives us the energy behind this project. And I just want to say thank you again to everyone who's joined. Just a few notes on what the board has done just in the very short time that they've been here. Not only have they declared racism a public health crisis, but they've also reframed the entire county legislative agenda to emphasize inclusion, equity, and fairness. And that's pervasive throughout not only the organization and the enterprise, but also you will see that rippling throughout the projects that we bring to the public and really every engagement that we have. So they also created a new Office of Environmental and Climate Justice and an Office of Equity and Racial Justice. So more to come on that. We really feel like this is the beginning of a big shift, and we are sorting through sort of how to utilize all of the policy and all of those offices in a way that's really coordinated, in a way that creates the types of outcomes we're hoping for. So related to our climate planning work, we have 2 primary efforts. First, the board directed that we prepare a regional sustainability plan, and that would benefit the entire County of San Diego. We are going to be kicking that work off soon, and it's going to be managed under the Land Use and Environment Group. So we'll have more to talk about in the later in the summer on that project. But then there's the work we're talking about tonight, and that's really the work that is being managed by myself and my team, and that's a climate action plan update project. So we received direction from the board in January to make this CAP the most progressive CAP that we can have, right? So not only are they asking us to go beyond state legislated GHG emissions reduction targets, but they're also asking us to try to get to net zero between 2035 and 2045. So that's a big lift. And they've also asked us to center the document and the process around equity and environmental justice. So that's really exciting direction, right? Because it's kind of new territory, frankly, for us. Let's see. So that's why we're here tonight. This is the first of many conversations we hope we're going to have and related to equity and environmental justice. And we hope to hear from you tonight to really shape this as a listening session more than anything, so that we can learn from your experience and hear from you about how we can make this the most successful process and project that we can. So now I'm proud to introduce tonight our facilitators from Mixed D Communications. And some of you may be familiar with them, but they're a locally owned firm that specializes in community-based public relations and specifically in building inclusivity and community engagement. So with us tonight, we have Kareem Boris and Luis Valdivia. I knew I was going to mess this up. Valdivia. And so with that, I'm happy to turn it over to Kareem so we can get started on the real work. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us.
Mr. Boris, before you begin, and my apologies for interrupting, I'm going to give the interpretation announcement. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the session. My name is Frida, and I'll be your interpreter. In order to provide language access, this meeting will have simultaneous bidirectional interpretation into English and Spanish. If you are bilingual, you don't have to click anything. But if you're not bilingual into English and Spanish and you're at your laptop, please locate the icon shaped like a globe at the bottom of your screen, select language interpretation, and then click English. If you're on your phone or an iPad or a similar device, then locate the 3-dot menu in the upper right corner of your screen, click on language interpretation, and then select English. When you speak, do so at a moderate pace, and the interpreter will be simultaneously interpreting everything you say. And as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded. Buenas tardes a todos y bienvenidos. Mi nombre es Frida y seré su intérprete para esta sesión. A efecto de proporcionar acceso lingüístico, esta reunión va a contar con interpretación simultánea bidireccional al inglés y al español. Si usted es bilingüe, no tiene que presionar nada, pero si usted no es bilingüe en inglés y en español y está en su computadora, encuentre el icono en forma de globo que está en la parte inferior de su pantalla, haga clic en interpretación de idiomas y después seleccione español o Spanish. Si usted está en su iPad, su teléfono o un dispositivo similar, entonces localice el menú de 3 puntos, haga clic en interpretación de idiomas y después seleccione español o Spanish. Cuando hable, hágalo en español. El intérprete estará simultáneamente interpretando todo lo que usted diga. También les recordamos que esta sesión está siendo grabada y estará disponible para su posterior consulta. Y también en este momento, a efecto de conocer a nuestra audiencia, le pedimos que si va a escuchar la reunión en español, en este momento levante la mano. Usted encontrará el icono para levantar la mano en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Antes de que me vaya, ¿alguien tiene una pregunta respecto a la interpretación? Before I go, does anyone have a question in regards to interpretation? If not, we may continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Frida. And thank you, Kelly, if only because usually I'm the one whose name gets messed up, not Luis's. So that just makes me really happy. Hello, everyone. I'm Kareem Bouri. I'm the Chief Operations Officer at MXD Communications. And with Luis, we will be facilitating today's workshop. Quick note about MXD. We are a small but mighty digital communications agency that's powered by public relations and driven by heart. We support business leaders who stand for healthy communities and nonprofit activists who are working towards justice. It's really fun to see the names of some of you in the room because we've either worked together, been on coalitions together, fought together, made public comment together, and it's just really fun to see your names again, if not your faces. I'm not going to repeat the interpretation instructions that Frida just gave. We have a long list of steps, but really at the end of the day, just follow the instructions and click the button on the bottom. And the only other thing I just want to reiterate one more time is that this session is being recorded. So if you have any questions, please put them under the Q&A, and let's just move into the meat of the topic for tonight, which is equity. So for those of you who were able to participate in the last CAP update workshop that we had on April 21st, just a reminder that we focused on providing the attendees an overview of the project, of the CAP, and the different components of the CAP. So today's session is different because we will be focused on equity and what that means and looks like for planning in the unincorporated areas of the county. And for today's workshop, we're going to go over the following items. So why are we here? What is a climate action plan? So while we do know, and some of you and you've been following and participating in a lot of the work that we've been doing over the years, some of you may be new. So let's make sure we don't leave them behind, and let's take a couple of minutes to make sure that everybody's on the same page about a CAP. We're going to do an interactive Q&A session with you all. And at the end, it will be a public comment period, so we can hopefully address some of the remaining questions that you have. So again, some of the information you might already be familiar with, like what you're going to see in the Climate Action Plan video. And again, we just want to emphasize that tonight's workshop session will be all about listening and learning from all on how to move 1 or 2 steps closer to equity regarding the CAP update. So now that we know what to expect, let's go ahead and let's finally introduce ourselves a little bit more to you all. So you all met Kelly at the beginning of this presentation. And we're also joined tonight by county planners Tyler Farmer, Megan Kelly, and Claire Moss. And as we mentioned again, I'm joined by my colleague Luis Valdivia, as well as Jamie Kirchner and Matt Geldman from Ascent Environmental. You'll be hearing from some of these folks during the presentation, and you may be in contact with one or more of our team as the project progresses. So now I'm just going to transition and hand it over to Luis, who's going to continue and give us a little bit more background.
Thank you, Kareem. Hello, everyone. I am Luis Valdivia from MXD Communications. So before we begin, let me share a bit of housekeeping information with you so that you understand what to expect for the duration of the meeting. First, we will be using Slido. Slido is an easy-to-use Q&A polling platform for live or remote meetings and webinars. This will allow us to have more of an engaging and interactive back and forth, more similar to a two-way discussion. Our philosophy for facilitating is help me help you to have a constructive, productive, and meaningful discussion. We encourage you all to be honest in your responses. This is a safe space, but also remember that this workshop, webinar, presentation is being recorded and will be available on the CAP website within a day or two after the meeting. So if you need to leave, you can always catch up with us at another time. But it's really cool if you can actually stay for the duration. Next, due to the webinar limitations, all attendee video cameras are off and microphones are muted by default. Overall, we want to emphasize that your participation is important to us and will help us to develop the CAP update project. So please do use the Q&A feature of this webinar to share your questions and comments during the meeting. Towards the end of this workshop, we will have a public comment period where we will first respond to your questions or comments that you submitted throughout the presentation, and then you will all have a chance to let your voice be heard. The next few slides will show us all how to access and use the Q&A feature, as well as Slido. This slide is meant to help you find the Q&A feature on your laptop, phone, or other smart device. Be aware that this is not the same as the chat function. Please do not use the chat function and instead submit your comments and questions in the Q&A feature. We encourage you all to ask questions and provide comment. All we ask is that you be as succinct and clear as possible in your questions and comments to allow us to review your input and organize it as best possible in preparation for the public comment period towards the end of this presentation. Please note that as attendees, you will not see the questions posed by others. However, all of your questions and comments are recorded and acknowledged by us. The next slide will help you identify the Q&A feature in your mobile or other smart device. Here is how you can find the Q&A feature on your mobile or smart device. Click on the More button located at the bottom of the Zoom window. Then click on the Q&A window to send your comments and questions. The next slide will show us how to use Slido. To participate in the polls, use the link provided in the chat box, scan the QR code on the top right-hand corner with your smartphone's camera, or type slido.com in your browser. Once prompted, enter the event code 999321 in the event code box. You will be redirected to the event automatically. Once again, we will be using Slido for this workshop, and I will be facilitating poll questions throughout the duration of this presentation to solicit meaningful input from community groups and residents to expand our network, to get community buy-in, and to guide next steps in the CAP update planning process. The next slide will provide instructions to participate in Spanish. Actually, no. This is a bilingual question and answer session. So you use the same code in English and in Spanish. So we're gonna try some questions now. We're gonna try this Slido a little bit. And we are going to start with this first question. How did you hear about this virtual workshop? And you can select all that apply from the following options: county email, county website, social media like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, a friend, family, or colleague, or other. If you selected other, please use the space below to provide an explanation for your selection. Please remember to click send to submit your response. So let's see how we're doing right now. Seeing those results come in.
Hey, Luis, I think we want to give a couple of moments for people to be able to get onto Slido. I know that when I've participated in these meetings and tried to get onto Slido, I'm not the best with the technology side of it. So looks like we only have a handful of people that are on Slido. For those of you that have not joined, please do join. We have a lot of polls tonight, and really it's going to be the primary, I guess, design feature of this presentation that allows us to track your input. So we really would appreciate if you would join.
And because, thank you for that, Kelly. And because you can use as many answers as possible, the total will not add up to 100%. So that's why you see more than 100%. So we're going to allow people to continue punching in their answers. And it seems that most are selecting county email as the way they found out about this webinar, followed by the county website and then word of mouth. Okay, looks like we're leveling off. I don't see any more movement. So for those of you who chose other, we have your written in questions, CAP team, the San Diego Green New Deal Alliance. And I don't see any others coming in. Give it a few seconds. Back to the actual questions, the options there. 90% county email. Looks like that's working for us. Okay, so looks like we're leveling off. So let's go to the next question. Where do you generally live or work in the county? Please select one of the following options you feel is most applicable. North County, East County, the Backcountry, County Island, Incorporated City, or outside of San Diego County. And again, please remember to click send to submit your response. So let's see what kind of responses we're getting right now. Most from the Incorporated City, followed by North County, East County, and outside San Diego County. We don't have an other option here, so there's no write-in answers. But it does seem like most of our participants are from the Incorporated City.
We had a participant point out that South County is not on the poll. So I'm curious if that was cut off on the slide and maybe we can't see it. Or if we just missed it on this slide. If that's the case, then thank you for pointing that out, Elizabeth. And I would love to have people put into the chat at this time if they are from the South County. That was inadvertently left off of this option.
And again, we have 71% from the Incorporated City. Looks like we're leveling off there.
My apologies. If you're South County and represented, and please put your South County answer in the Q&A for us if you can at this time. The chat is disabled.
Yep, looks like we leveled off at 70%. So are we ready to go to the next question? So this is a two-part question. What is your relationship with the County of San Diego? And are you a member of a specific organization or group? So for the first part, please select all that apply from the following options: resident, community leader or organizer, community planning group or sponsor group member, business owner, farmer, or other. If you are a member of an organization or group, please provide the name of your organization in the space below. Or if you selected other, please use the space below to provide an explanation for your selection. Again, please remember to click send to submit your response. And so far, it seems like 75% are residents. Results are still coming in. Thank you very much for participating. And again, just in case you're just joining us, you can go on your browser to slido.com and use the code 999321 to participate in the survey. Okay, it looks like about 80% are residents. Results are still coming in. Okay, so the written questions: City Heights, CDC, Christian Fellowship Congregational Church, City Heights, San Diego 350, Youthwell, San Diego Green New Deal Alliance. Very good. Thank you for providing that information. Various non-governmental organizations join us tonight. Thank you for being here. Pretty certain we're going to get some very good information as a result of this workshop. All right, I think the answers might be leveling off at this point. So we're going to go to the next slide. In one word, what does a focus on equity in the CAP update look like to you? Please type your response. You can provide more than one response, but we're asking you to try to keep it simple and use one word at a time. Please remember to click send to submit your response. And the responses are coming in. And we're using what's called a word cloud. So if a word repeats, the words that repeat, you will see those in a larger format. So the larger the word, the most popular the response. So again, the question is, in one word, what does a focus on equity in the CAP update look like to you? This is going to be a very interesting word cloud. Thank you all for participating and providing your answers. This is going to be very helpful. Okay, so it looks like fairness and inclusion are the leading words here in this word cloud. And it appears that we may be leveling off. Thank you for your responses. We have a lot to work with here. And it does look like we're leveling off. So I think that I am going to throw it back to Kareem for the next portion of the presentation, and I will be back with you in just a few slides.
Awesome. Thanks, Luis. Thanks, everybody. We just wanted to make sure that everybody got some chance and some time to practice with the Slido, because this is a little bit of a different kind of a setup for us. In an ideal world, we'd have a ton of little focus groups. We'd be able to spend time together and really digging into bigger questions and listening from you. So what we're gonna do here is provide a little bit of context to just make sure we're all grounded the same way. I'm gonna talk more, and I apologize in advance for that, but it's just to make sure that everybody is singing from the same songbook. So why are we here? Simply put, this workshop is all about equity. And even though the questions may not seem directly focused on equity, they all lead to making sure that the county is thinking through the best way to make sure that the process is inclusive to all. As most of us have learned, the pandemic has magnified our community's social and economic problems, especially among our most vulnerable populations. But there is hope for the future. I mean, we have to believe that. I know we do. And this new team at the county, as Kelly Bray said, and is led by Kelly, is definitely committed to doing better and prioritizing equity in this next iteration of the Climate Action Plan update. So let's get to the question that's on the slide. Why are we here? And simply put, we're really just here to listen and to learn. We all carry knowledge, we all carry experience and perspective. That's why we encourage everyone to share and be vulnerable with us tonight as we listen and learn from you during tonight's workshop. Whether that's by submitting your questions or your comments, and thank you for doing that in the Q&A chat function, whether that's by participating in the interactive polling, or if it's by sharing your questions and comments during the public comment portion at the end. The county believes it can generate a more informed, more inclusive, and more equitable climate action plan update when it's able to engage with not just more of the county's residents, but a set of community members that's as diverse as possible, diverse culturally, diverse economically, and socially diverse. So if what I said sounds flowery, if it sounds detached, another way of looking at it is that we're here for the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we want to hear that. We also want to be hopeful, which is what we want, and we all want this next version of the Climate Action Plan to be. We want it to be something that we're proud of. We have a history. We want it to become an invaluable source of knowledge and direction regarding sustainable practices, strategies, and policies for the unincorporated areas. So at the end of the day, why are we here? We're here to work together. We're here to collaborate. We're in this together, which means that we need to be open and honest. So you've probably heard a version of the popular African proverb that goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Although some of us may want to go fast and we want to get there as fast as possible, we must remember that there are some of us who are fresh and new and will need your time and patience. That does not mean we won't make progress. We will. But in order to get where we want to be, to where we want the county to be, we must work together, not against each other. That's why we ask that whatever questions and comments you want to share with us and your peers be phrased in that succinct and respectful manner. So there's a lot of history with the county and the climate plan itself. This is not the time, hopefully, to tear each other down, but build each other up. It is a new dawn. There is a new dawn of a new era in San Diego. So we're going to really keep encouraging everyone at this workshop to think critically about your communities, about your physical environment, about your relationship with sustainability or environmentalism, and really at the end to think critically about your personal health and quality of life over the last few weeks, the months, and years. And we want you to bring that knowledge and share it with us in this workshop, because the intention here is we want you to help support and improve this next iteration of the Climate Action Plan update. Last, and I promise we're done after this, and this slide, we'll move on. We're here to keep each other accountable. Our region is diverse. We don't need to tell you that. San Diego County is also geographically large. One moment you can be enjoying the surf or the sand and on our beaches, And the next moment you could be hiking the trails in the deserts. So there's a lot of San Diego to go around for all of us, but in order to keep and maintain these awesome amenities, we need to keep each other accountable. And that's where this project comes in. The unincorporated areas of the county are often overlooked by social and environmental justice advocates. And we're asking you tonight and over the summer to lean in to help us integrate our vulnerable communities into our work. So virtual workshops like this one have proven to be super effective when trying to connect with people from different areas and jurisdictions, including the unincorporated areas like Rancho San Diego, areas around Spring Valley or El Cajon or East County. But we really need your help in getting more San Diegans to show up and participate in this process. If the goal, and the Word Cloud confirmed it, is to generate a more inclusive and equitable climate action plan, then we need you. We need all of you to spread the word, to encourage our others to join, to engage, and to help us review and assess if the materials that the county is producing related to the climate action plan update are effective and working. So that's it. That's the background, that's the context. And with all that being said, for the next slide, we're going to go over the expectations specifically for this workshop. So even though we won't get all the answers today, it's really important for us to set these expectations. The reason we put these two columns is that we know that this isn't our first time. On the contrary, this may be feeling like déjà vu to many of you, but the times are different. Our county leadership is taking steps that we haven't really seen anybody take at the county level before in its response and approach to climate change. And more importantly, it's taking different steps to ensure that the right people are involved and heard so that it reflects what's best for all of us. So if we're going to distill it, what we're hoping the workshop can be is that it's not about dwelling in the past, although we do encourage everyone to reflect about their past firsthand experiences and knowledge regarding the climate action plan, your quality of life and special issues or concerns for underserved communities. But what this workshop is about is looking forward. It's about mending relationships and building community, as well as people power and support for the climate action plan. And most importantly, it's about looking forward and seeing the possibilities. So now that we've gone over what this workshop is and what it isn't, let's take a step back and review where we are in the entire timeline of updating the CAP. So we really like this image because the good news is we're really at the beginning of a long journey together on this update plan. So it's also why we're glad that this workshop is happening early in the process so that equity considerations can guide our next steps in this journey. So we've only really just begun, which means that we have time to bolster our network of people. We have time to improve our communications with you all. We have time to collect your input and your feedback, and we have time to continue our engagement with key stakeholders. So with all this being said, let's do a little maybe just necessary reality check for all of us. And that is that we're simply not going to get all the answers today. We're at the beginning of a long journey. And we really want to emphasize this point. We want to be realistic. It's a workshop for us to collect meaningful and timely input from you all on a complex process, which is equity. And it's a complex process, both in the actual stuff that goes into the climate action plan and the way that we keep the people involved. Excuse me, I just had a little technical glitch over here. Thank you. So we want to make sure that it's not just the actual content of the plan that's rooted in equity, but also the way that we keep everybody on the same page and involved who may be affected, but not easily able to participate along the way. So depending on how much time we have, we might not be able to get to all your questions or comments. But do know that whatever you submit or say during this workshop, one, it is a public workshop. It's being recorded and it'll be made available to the public afterward. And two, your answers, your questions, your comments are noted and filed away by county staff who will sort, they'll categorize, and they'll later publish all of this in an appendix that will be an attachment to this next climate action plan update. So again, we will do our best at this workshop to get you answers, but we're working against the timer, and it is really 6 to 8 p.m. It's a tough time of day. It's dinner time. Families are all together, and depending on how many questions and comments we receive at this workshop, there's a possibility that we may not get to everyone. So now we're going to take a little break. We're going to watch a short video on what a climate action plan is. But before we begin, let's first acknowledge the elephant in the room. And it's a quick one, and we've said it so many times, we probably should have said it much earlier. Is it a climate action plan or is it a CAP? Good news, it's both. So although some of our materials like this video we're about to see use and say the whole phrase, climate action plan, we're going to primarily moving forward the rest of the day, the evening, we're going to be using the acronym CAP to refer to the county's climate action plan. So let's watch this short video which outlines the basics of the county's CAP.
Climate change is a global issue that is addressed through local actions, including implementation of the county's Climate Action Plan. Currently, the county is embarking upon a Climate Action Plan update. This effort to adopt a certified plan that will reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the unincorporated area of the county and emissions associated with operating county facilities through new policies and programs will help us make progress towards our commitment to reduce climate change impacts in our community. To get involved in the update, visit www.sandiegocounty.gov/CAP and enter your email to subscribe to project updates, attend public outreach events, and stay informed of the CAP update progress. In recent years, climate change has caused record-breaking heat and drought that leads to tree mortality, that fuels more intense wildfires. Climate change also causes record-breaking floods and more frequent and severe hurricanes in other parts of the country and globally. Climate change is caused by an increase in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. What is a greenhouse gas, or GHG? It is a gaseous compound that traps and holds heat in the atmosphere. With more greenhouse gases in the air holds more heat, and the Earth's temperature goes up. There are several steps we can take to reduce greenhouse gases and live more sustainably. We can walk, bike, take public transit, or carpool instead of driving alone. Take shorter showers and turn off water when not in use to conserve. Turn off appliances or lights when not in use to use less energy. And increase waste diversion by composting and recycling. All of these actions help to reduce our individual carbon footprint and save precious resources. The County of San Diego reduces greenhouse gas emissions in the unincorporated area of the county and emissions associated with operating county facilities through implementation of the Climate Action Plan. What is the Climate Action Plan? The Climate Action Plan, or CAP, is a roadmap to a more sustainable future for everyone in the county. The county is committed to creating a climate action plan that serves the community and our mission to protect the public's health and safety, sustain the environment, and improve the quality of life for our residents. The CAP includes measures that reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the unincorporated area of the county and emissions associated with operating county facilities and provide other co-benefits like clean air and water, improved public health, and green job creation. CAP greenhouse gas reduction measures benefit the environment, the economy, and create a cleaner community for us all to thrive in. Without action, greenhouse gas emissions are expected to increase. We want to hear from you. What strategies do you want to see the county take to reduce greenhouse gases and create a cleaner, healthier environment? Here's how you can get involved. Send us an email at cap@sdcounty.ca.gov or visit www.sandiegocounty.gov/CAP and subscribe to CAP updates and learn how to participate in outreach events. Thank you for listening, and we hope you will join us as we work towards a more sustainable future.
Hello again, this is Luis, and now the fun begins. This is where you get to tell us what we need to know. We're trying something a little different tonight. We will ask you a few open-ended questions, and you'll all get up to 2 minutes to answer them. As we mentioned earlier, we are here to listen and learn. The county believes it can generate a more informed, more inclusive, and more equitable climate action plan update when it is able to engage with not just more of the county's residents, but with a set of community members that's as diverse as possible, culturally, economically, and socially. Since this is a little bit of an odd setting and we don't want to limit your answers, we're hoping to get a more accurate sense of your ideas and thoughts. We'll have more in-depth, smaller conversations over the course of the next few months. So this is our first go at opening up the floor in a way that we can hopefully give everyone a chance to tell us what they want us to know. So let's get started. In one word, what is your perception of the CAP update? Please type your response. Remember, you can provide more than one response, but we're asking you to try to keep it simple and use one word at a time. Please remember to click send to submit your response. And again, we're going to be using the word cloud. The more popular the word, the larger. Those responses are coming in. Remember, you can use as many as you would like, but just use them individually. Responses are still coming in. And just in case you have just joined us, remember you can go to slido.com on your browser and use the code 999321 to participate in the survey.
And Luis, we had someone point out a little while ago that it's Slido, so it's SLI, I think, period, DO.com. So
Okay.
if you're having a trouble finding it, that could be why. Our apologies.
So sli.do.com.
That's correct.
Okay, I believe that the answers are leveling off. I think they are, so we probably should go to the next question. Do you feel the CAP update affects your quality of life in any way? So let us know yes, no, or not sure. You can also provide any additional thoughts in the space below your answer to help explain your answer and provide more detail. And please remember to click send to submit your response. Responses are coming in, and also a reminder that we are recording this session, so it will be available in a day or so. Okay, it appears that the answers are leveling off. A couple more came in. And I don't think it's going to change the overall result. Okay, so written responses are coming in. And thank you for those. This information is going to be very helpful. Quality of life seems to be the common denominator there, the written responses. And it looks like that has leveled off. So let's go to the next slide. So the second portion of the interactive listening session will focus on ways the county can improve its outreach during the next few months. For example, which community-based organizations, non-government organizations, or nonprofit organizations should we reach out to? Are there cultural nuances to consider? And so on. Ready? Here we go. So regarding health issues, are you or your community experiencing any public health issues that could be attributed to climate change, greenhouse gas emissions, and/or other factors? Please select one of the following options you feel is more applicable. Yes, no, or not sure. So again, the question is, are you or your community experiencing any public health issues that could be attributed to climate change, greenhouse gas emissions, and/or other factors? Okay, responses are slowly coming in. Okay. Seems to be leveling off a little bit. Couple more coming in. All right, we have a clear answer. Okay, moving on. What are the specific issues or concerns that affect your community in San Diego County? We're seeing some written responses from the previous question. So what are the specific issues or concerns that affect your community? I see a couple of asthma, air pollution, air pollution, air pollution seems to be a common denominator, air quality, heat illness, heat, lack of trees, greenery, pollution from transportation, high VMT, air pollution, air quality, clean air and water, wildfire, heat waves, air pollution from vehicles. Okay. Next question, how can the county address those issues, if any? Improve transit. That's a big one. Better policies to better address and make the public aware. Better air quality, follow CARB solutions, electric vehicles, light rail, reduce VMT. By the way, VMT is vehicle miles traveled. Have an aggressive cap. Focus on climate change and public health impacts. Better wildland management, electric cars. Better wildland management. Better transit, 100% renewable energy. Work with SANDAG to reduce transportation pollution. Okay. I think we might be ready to go to the next slide. How can we best involve you as well as other individuals and organizations as the county seeks input on the CAP update? Please type in your response and please remember to click send to submit your response. Let's see what we get here. How can we best involve you as well as other individuals and organizations as the county seeks input on the CAP update? We'll give you a couple of minutes to type in your answers. Okay, email updates, small group discussions. Be accessible and transparent. Continue to engage the community. Notice meetings, community outreach. Create an opportunity for individual input. Reach out to local environmental organizations. Continue community engagement and outreach. Support the SANDAG Regional Transportation Plan. Thank you very much for your input. This is absolutely very helpful. Hire young people and people from marginalized communities, door-to-door outreach, organize future workshops. Again, thank you everybody for being part of this workshop. This information is going to be very useful. Demonstrate that community input will lead to some change. Involve all communities. Notify property owners for input. thread with other jurisdictions, work towards common goals. Okay. Let's involve local high schools. Okay. Well, might go ahead and go to the next slide. What cultural nuances should the county take into consideration during the CAP update? Please type in your response, and please remember to click send to submit your response. What cultural nuances should the county take into consideration during the CAP update? And we'll give it a couple of minutes for the answers to come in. Okay, not all ESL speakers speak Spanish. And ESL, of course, is English as a second language. People of other cultures or who do not speak English may be extremely shy, but have great input and ideas. Tribal cultures, Latinx and BIPOC. Language outreach other than English. Do not rely on emails, social media, internet to reach communities. Generational differences, Gen Z, millennials. Communities of concern are always the most affected by climate change issues and worst affected by pollution. Make available in several languages. Accessible language. Involve leaders in communities of concern and building of affordable housing. Burning of fossil fuels is a big part of some cultures of sorts. Add social media. Uniqueness of each. There is not always a trust in government outreach. Some residents do not believe their input will make a difference. Attitudes toward work, housing, and transportation may differ. Ensure that the process is easily understood by anyone and everyone by using phrases and wording that will be understood by everyone. We have not been given the facts about climate change. Continue to reach out to different cultures because they may have different issues. Understand that not everyone sees things the same way. Visual material that can be interpreted by various languages is important. Consider stepping outside the green farming. Interpretation. Sea level rise should be a big part of it too. So people understand that and share the beaches. This is all great input. Thank you for that. Educate communities in their language. Their languages about the adverse health effects of climate change. have goals that folks can tie to their everyday life and improve their quality of life. We do not understand that failure will end our habitat. Okay, very good. I believe they are leveling off and might be ready to go to the next slide. Where are there underserved communities in the unincorporated area of San Diego County that require special attention? Please type your response. Please remember to click send to submit your response. Where are there underserved communities in the unincorporated area of San Diego County that require special attention? We'll give it a minute for the answers to start rolling in. Any areas along the border? And again, these are underserved communities in the unincorporated area of San Diego County that require special attention. Any that are considered communities of concern: Spring Valley, Casa de Oro. Reservations, every community with below average income. East and Backcountry, border communities, Spring Valley. Border, rural, and tribal areas need to have input and attention, especially regarding wildfires. East County has very poor areas. Ramona has underserved and underrepresented residents, qualifying for disadvantaged community status. All those living close to freeways suffering from air pollution. Backcountry reservations, tribal areas, East County. Communities living along freeways in unincorporated areas, Spring Valley. Need electric car chargers in those areas as well to help the change to electric vehicles. Farm workers, workers serving residential areas. Areas classified as food deserts, those far from accessible open space and public transit. They are threaded throughout San Diego, South County in particular, but there are areas near industry all over. Involved indigenous leaders. East County, rural areas, places with a high concentration of people in a small area. Reach out via the National Latino Research Center in Podar Popular. Okay, I think we might be leveling off here in this question. So we're going to go to the next question. If you had to choose the most important concern for underserved communities that a good climate plan can address, what would it be? Please type in your response and remember to click send to submit your response. If you had to choose the most important concern for underserved communities, what would it be? Related to a good climate action plan, of course. Air, water, and quality, affordable housing, wildfire smoke, air quality, common denominator there, air quality, clean air, water, and available food, air quality, access to quality public transit, access to quality affordable housing, air quality, transit accessibility, how funding is being used and why underserved communities are not prioritized, access to cool areas during a heat wave, prioritizing all emission reduction investments in communities of concern, wildlife threat, heat illnesses, transportation access, exposure to unhealthy environment via air pollution through locations near high traffic areas, cooling centers, socioeconomic disenfranchisement, access to public resources, access to a variety of mobile transportation options, allocation to resources in education. Getting a lot of responses here. Quality green spaces like parks, community resiliency hubs, and more trees or community gardens. Access to public resources. We need to involve leaders, air quality, transportation, build microgrids, investment in communities of concern. Do not overburden those communities relative to other communities with solutions to GHG reduction. Affordable housing, good public transportation, access to food stores in the area, high-end development, displacement. Rebate programs so that communities of concern aren't left behind as we mitigate the climate crisis. And gentrification and high-end luxury housing developments. Build affordable housing, infill development. Subsidize solar for lower income households and rental properties. Okay. The most important concern is that a bad cap contributes to ending humanity's habitat. I think we might be leveling off on this question. So let's go to the next. How can the CAP update and its policies assist underserved communities? Again, please type your response and remember to click send to submit your response. How can the CAP update and its policies assist underserved communities. We'll give it a minute for the answers to roll in. Invest in creating clean jobs in and for these communities. Increase access to safe places for walking, biking, and recreation. Provide tangible solutions for air quality and transportation. Prioritize investments in environmental justice. Change direction from allowing polluting industries anywhere. Subsidizing rooftop solar for lower income households. Access to electric vehicles. Have legally binding targets and prioritize funding for communities of concern. Provide just transitions for people in unincorporated and underserved communities. Understand what the communities need and invest. Desalination to provide affordable water. Provide job training for high-paying green jobs. Aggressively reduce GHG production. Make clear directives that are legally binding and implemented. Subsidies for communities of concern. Achieving climate stabilizing targets will end most use of fossil fuel, causing more healthy living and adding a lot of green jobs. Help provide accessibility to outdoor recreation opportunities, outdoor programs for disadvantaged communities to enjoy the natural resources of the county. Transportation, promotion, support. Make sure that solutions are distributed equitably, rebates, incentives, investments. Ensure benefits and burdens are equitably distributed. Use San Diego Green New Deal cap sent to the city of San Diego as a guide. Provide subsidies for upgrades that community cannot afford. Policies that dismantle dirty infrastructure and build green infrastructure. Create a robust and tangible county housing element. Create more green spaces, electrify transportation. Create an anti-displacement strategy to ensure that members from these communities enjoy the infrastructure and housing they have fought for in their communities and are not displaced. Reach out to those communities for their input. Many here submitting suggestions are not from underserved communities. Make it easy for people to get investments and rebates. It's confusing to have to fill out a bunch of applications. Hold county contractors accountable to help achieve the goals in the cap. Okay, looks like we're leveling off. I think that in the interest of time, we should move on to the next. So this is the final portion of the interactive listening session, and it will focus on ways the county can do better follow-up and move forward with the CAP update. So our next slide, how can the county remove barriers so that everyone can participate? How can the county remove barriers so that everyone can participate? Please type your response The second question will be, what methods should the county consider to reach underserved communities? Please type your response and remember to click send to submit your response. Go out into the community. How can the county remove barriers so that everyone can participate? In-person outreach is crucial. Disadvantaged communities aren't always reachable via email or online. Invite small group input. Collaborate with neighborhood groups. These meetings are a start, but involve more outreach and locations in person when possible. Hire people to do organizing for the outreach directly to community members. Have community leaders facilitate discussions in person, as there can be a barrier of language or literacy. In-person outreach is crucial. Provide childcare during in-person meetings. Outreach in Spanish, Tagalog, Arabic. Speak at schools when parents are there during night meetings. You have to go out. Timing is crucial. Accessibility for people with special needs, such as hearing, vision, learning. Hold meetings at various times, weekends, weekday mornings, etc. Barriers to stable technology impact participation in rural areas. Reach out to local community groups outside of the environmental space, such as Kiwanis or Rotary. Work with county libraries to hold workshops and meetings there. More kinds of communication strategies, social media, infographics, short sentences. Go to work sites, farms, and other areas where immigrant labor is used. Okay. Biggest barrier is a lack of information about how serious our climate emergency is. A small incentive may be a good method to reach folks, ensuring that everyone is aware. Hire community leaders to speak at schools and libraries. Reach out to community groups, including local churches and religious organizations, I would assume is the next word. Okay. I think we should go to the next slide. So the second question was, what methods should the county consider to reach underserved communities? Webinars like this are a good start. Social media, and go to farms and workplaces. In-person contacts that are culturally and linguistic appropriate. Use the CBO to reach out in faith-based organizations. Biggest barrier is a lack of information about how serious our climate emergency is. Hold outreach input sessions live in the underserved communities. Co-host future meetings with community-based groups, community meetings, churches and schools. Okay, so the next question, what else should the county take into consideration during the CAP update process? Please type in your response. And please remember to click send to submit your response. And this will be our last question before Q&A session begins. What else should the county take into consideration during the CAP update process? Given decades of disinformation by Exxon, etc., not everyone will be happy about any plan. How important are habitat lands play in controlling climate change? Be bold and aggressive. Incorporate zero waste principles, such as the circular economy. The link between GHG-VMT production and land use patterns. Research from academia, be bold. A cap must be applied to achieve climate stabilization with a set of enforceable measures. Remember to get advice from young people. They're the ones that this is for. Relationship building with community members takes time. Community members are the experts for their own solutions. The ongoing impact. Follow climate science and hire experts. Keep it simple and easy to understand. Useful videos. Must align with state, federal, and global GHG reduction targets. Calculate location accessibility and transportation burden, not just housing affordability. Climate change, sustainability, career opportunities. The county needs to work very closely with incorporated cities and community groups, as well as the various military commands here in the county. Join the CCA. The best way to decrease VMT is with pricing systems. We must improve the way we pay to use parking and roads. Prioritize climate and social impacts. Empower the historically disenfranchised. That CAP update solutions sometimes negatively impact unincorporated areas while benefiting urban areas. Reach out to the experts that understand the climate changes in San Diego. Solar powered everything, community power. Climate change information workshops to help lay out the clear science behind climate change, to explain to people why this is important. Include electrification of new building development. Include a history about race, space, and place. I think too much focus on reduced VMT is wrong. Okay, I think that this is a good segue for our Q&A section in the interest of time. So that concludes the survey portion of the presentation. So now I would like to introduce Tyler Farmer, Planning Manager with the County of San Diego.
So good evening, everyone. Yeah, like I was just introduced, and thank you for the introduction there, but my name is Tyler Farmer, and I will be facilitating the public comment and the Q&A portion of our meeting. But first, just want to take the opportunity to thank everyone for attending tonight. We'd really like to reiterate the county is committed to equity and robust engagement on the Climate Action Plan update, and your participation and feedback will really help inform our approach. So please make sure that you signed up for our email updates using the website shown on here on this slide, which can be found on our project website as well. This will help ensure that you can receive the latest project information direct to your inbox. And so for the Q&A portion, we will start by first addressing some of the comments that we received during the presentation so far. And one of the first things we want to address is in the beginning of the presentation, we had a question about where do you live, and the issue with the slide responses not having the South County option. We did get at least 3 responses there, so we're going to look to updating our poll results so we can fold in those numbers. And so when we have that information available later, those responses will be included. But yeah, I'd also like to bring up one really interesting question that we had in the Q&A from Rachel. And Kelly, I'd like to bring you into this. So this interesting comment that I'd like to see if you can provide some more information on was, the question came off as, "Hi, I'm new to this group, and I'm curious if you can provide examples of types of resident community concerns this group has addressed and taken forward, and what it has looked like in the past."
Thanks for that, Tyler. Well, thanks for the question, Rachel. I would say, hey, we're all new to this. The 2018 Climate Action Plan, we didn't really have as much focus on the equity and environmental justice component. This group is all new to the county since 2018, with the exception of myself. I was kind of in and out of the county at that point. The consultant team is new. We have new board direction. So what I would say is we have very new perspectives on what we can do with a group like this. This is in fact our first equity focused workshop for the Climate Action Plan update. So what we were hoping to do with this workshop, and I have to just say, I have so much gratitude for you all joining. We have received exactly the feedback we were hoping to receive on issues of concern, solutions, how to best engage you all, cultural nuances. We had really strong feedback. That's exactly what we were hoping to receive. So really, this is the first of many steps. I can't speak to, we're bringing everything forward. Let's put it that way. If this is a topic, if there's a topic that we can both create a GHG reduction out of a measure and also focus and equity, solution in it, that's a win-win for us, right? So those are the types of examples of policies we're looking for. The Climate Action Plan, first and foremost, is a greenhouse gas reduction plan. It is a mitigation measure for our general plan. And I know everybody hates the jargon, but that's what it is. We have a CEQA fulfillment that we have to do. And so it has to reduce greenhouse gases in order to be able to make it into this Climate Action Plan. But that being said, there's nothing that we're not trying to do with this plan. We are aspirational with it. We really want to, thoroughly engage our unincorporated residents. And I just want to address the sort of elephant in the room, which to me is not what Kareem said, whether you call it CAP Climate Action Plan. It is, I just want to be clear that this Climate Action Plan We only have policy control over the unincorporated area. So I recognize that a lot of folks that are in this room, are not residents of the unincorporated area, and that's fine. What we really wanted this to be was a call in so that we can ask you and lean on your experience in the San Diego region to help us understand how we can best reach our unincorporated area residents. And we hope you'll continue on this journey with us because your feedback is super valuable. Just what we received tonight is to me is insanely valuable. So, to Rachel's question, I think, we intend to continue to use this platform and all of the other suggestions, the small focus groups, the in-person meetings, as soon as we can do that, the food, all the good stuff, right? Old school community workshops to help us facilitate these conversations. So more to come. And I hope that you'll continue on our journey with us, Rachel.
Yeah, and thanks for coloring it in with that response there, Kelly. We were really, first and foremost, hoping people would attend and give responses. But what we're getting really excited about is the diversity of responses that we've gotten. There's just so much information for us to think about and apply to our project and see, how can we do better? How can we, reach more and benefit more through this effort? So we're just, we're kind of blown away by the responses and just really appreciate everyone's feedback so far. Well, there were some polling question responses that we received about language accessibility, which is really great feedback. And we are in the process of trying to make information more language accessible and reach more of our residents. We do want to highlight a lot of our information is hosted on our website, and that information is powered through Google Translate. So that is accessible in numerous different languages. Excuse me. And then also our video recordings of our past workshops are able to be viewed with closed captions that also access many different languages. But we are continuing to see how we can make language accessibility be more facilitated and more available through the county. So we appreciate it. Our interpretive services tonight are one of those, and so we really appreciate the feedback. Some of the polling question, some of the responses within our polling questions did ask about upcoming workshops. And Kelly, can you speak a little bit about some of the upcoming topics that we have coming here for the public related to the Climate Action Plan update?
Absolutely. So we have a series of workshops that we are planning right now for the rest of the summer and through the fall. For those that may be new to this CAP project timeline, the first part of the first part of the spring, we were conducting mostly our data gathering for our GHG emissions inventory. And so now we're starting to launch into what I call like the meat of the climate action planning process, which is really talking about the CAP measures, right? So that's the policy portion. That's the sort of good stuff, right, that we can dig into and build these conversations on equity around. So this is our first large format focus on equity. I think we're going to have several smaller focus discussions on equity. I know a lot of people said this isn't the best way to communicate, and we totally agree with that. We think we need to have a lot of dialogue on these things. So we could anticipate hearing more from us once we develop our plan based on tonight's feedback about how we're going to focus the equity conversation. Sort of parallel tracking that, we're also going to have a series of more educational workshops that are about the CAP measure development. So I think the plan right now is to focus on individual sectors of emissions, right? So we can start to build the foundation for the education about how human activities contribute to different, within different sectors to different emissions, so that we can talk about strategies and solutions such as those that you provided tonight. And then towards the end of the fall, it really all comes together, right? So we start to develop new CAP measures that we can look at that have the equity components. We can start to figure out how to implement those measures and where we would want to see them, how we would prioritize incentives and programming related to resourcing of those policies. So really what we're trying to do is about one CAP measure workshop a month. I think the first one should be July 28th, I think is the date that we've landed on for that. We don't have the topics, but it will be CAP measure related. And then probably near the end of every month, we will have an additional CAP measure workshop. What I would say is just if you can just go ahead and while you're thinking about it, click on that climate action plan bar there and sign up. You will be the first to know when we have additional programming coming up. So hopefully that's helpful. We also are anticipating going before the Planning Commission later in the summer, as well as the board. So stay tuned for that. I can tell you the first board informational workshop will be for sure on July 14th. So hopefully that's helpful.
All right, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And I think we'll move on to the next slide here. And so as we kind of continue to answer the questions that you're sharing us to the Q&A box, we also want to give the opportunity for you to verbally share any other comments and ask additional questions. We do want to provide a reminder that this meeting is being recorded and your comments will be part of the public record. So please keep that in mind as you do verbalize your comments. Instructions on how to request to provide public comments are going to be provided in the next slide here. So if you're calling in by phone and you are not using Zoom on your computer or mobile device, please press *9 to indicate that you'd like to speak. When it is your turn, we will call on you based on the last 4 digits of your phone number and then listen for the message. The host would like you to unmute your microphone. You can now press *6 to unmute. And when you are done with your comment, please press *6 to remute yourself. And those of you that are calling in by phone, we especially want to hear from you since we know that you have not been able to share your comments or ask questions through our Q&A box during the presentation. If you are using Zoom on your computer, mobile, or other smart device, look for the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen to let us know if you would like to speak. When it is your turn, you will receive a notification and you can select unmute myself, at which point you'll be able to begin speaking. The host will then mute your microphone when you are done. We will be calling speakers based upon the order in which we receive requests, and we will prompt you when it is your turn. At that point, please state your name for the record, and each speaker will have an equal amount of time to speak, which is about a minute. You will hear this sound. Thank you, Jamie, when your time is up. Please conclude your comments at that time so we can ensure that everyone has the time to speak and has a chance to do so. So we will go ahead and get to our first public comment here. And let me just get my window up here so I can see who we have with raised hands here. All right, so the first one I'm seeing is Madison Coleman.
Hello, everyone. This is Madison Coleman, policy advocate with Climate Action Campaign. As you all know, it's essential that the county centers equity in every aspect of this CAP update by prioritizing communities with low access, resources and investments that are most impacted by the climate crisis and environmental injustice. I hope that you all will work with these communities to advance microgrids, community power, virtual power plants, rebate programs, and other more climate resiliency projects and programs. And the last thing that I'll say is that it's extremely important that when the county does host small group discussions, that the county compensates folks who are willing to share their lived experiences for the sake of feedback moving forward. That's extremely important. So thank you for your time, your consistent efforts in this workshop. Thanks.
Really appreciate the feedback there, Madison, on specific things we could look at, but also those kind of procedural elements to help bring more people into the process. That is helpful, and appreciate your time attending tonight and asking the question and bringing up that comment. So thank you very much, appreciate it. The next one I see on the list here is Craig Jones.
Hi, thank you very much. I'll be real brief. The feedback that I've seen on this presentation tonight, I think makes it clear, but many people may not understand why there is a social equity connection to a climate action plan. And it's because disadvantaged communities are first and by far worst impacted by climate change. Also, please recognize the land use connection to equity in climate action planning. Land use sprawl creates inequity in many forms, doesn't produce affordable housing, The more it happens, I mean, land use sprawl is white flight. So the county, both to reduce greenhouse gases and to approach equity, needs to stop land use sprawl. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the feedback there and verbalizing your comment. Yes, and I also appreciate people that are technologically savvy and stop raising their hand when they're done. That is helpful for me to kind of moderate here. The next I see on our list is Mike Bullock. You want to provide your comment or question?
Yeah, thank you very much, Tyler. This is Mike Bullock. I live up in Oceanside, and I want to say that the most inequitable outcome we could possibly imagine is failure to stabilize the climate at a livable level. For that reason, we should not be even talking about climate action plans. We should be talking about climate stabilization plans. I'm a systems engineer, and to me, this is a systems engineering problem. We are directed by the climate scientists telling us what we have to do to stabilize the climate at a livable level, and we have to achieve those standards, those targets, those requirements. And the first occurring is the most important, and it is in 2030. That's why we have a climate emergency. And you will do an environmental impact report, and there's no environmental impact report as huge as destabilizing the Earth's climate. It will literally lead to the end of most life forms on the planet, and certainly that includes our own species. And it will be, for the most part, starvation, because we will have heat that will kill our crops, and so on and so forth. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it, Mike. Thank you so much for your comment here and your energy on the topic. Yeah, and before we kind of move on to the next verbal comment here, I do just want to let everybody know that if, doing a verbal comment or, doing a written Q&A is not in the format that you prefer, please feel free to reach out to us via email or phone call to have one-on-one conversations or a dedicated comment that way. So while we're providing this opportunity tonight, we want to just make sure everyone's aware that we're here for continued conversations if you prefer a different format or a different avenue to have your conversation. But moving on to the next raised hand I see here, Clovis, would you like to go ahead and bring your comment forward?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Uh-oh. I don't hear you. I was hearing you until you took me off mute. Now I can't hear you. But anyways, my name is Clovis Honore. I am the former president of the NAACP. My degree from San Diego State is in political science and Africana studies. And I'm the co-chair of the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee for San Diego Green New Deal Alliance. On an occasion of one of the last questions, you asked what are some of the things we should be concerned about. And one of the things I put in there was white supremacy and its ongoing impact and effect on institutions in San Diego. And the gentleman who was reading those responses intentionally, apparently, but as far as I could tell, failed to read that particular statement. He started it and then he stopped reading when it got to white supremacy. I repeated it, I put it in there again, repeating it again, and he skipped over it again. And then I asked the question, why are you not responding on white supremacy? And it was again ignored. As an African-American man who's lived in San Diego for 43 years and the president of the NAACP who's watched this stuff happen on a daily basis, I'm very concerned that happened in this supposed equity conversation with the San Diego County and his attempt to put together a climate action plan. And I really hope that somebody's going to respond to that immediately. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Clovis, and thank you for verbalizing your comment and then, providing responses to our Slido polls and those other elements. For us, this is really a listening session. So hearing the voices of those and the specific concerns that they have is really helpful to us. And then we can use that to kind of inform our process moving forward. So thank you again for taking the time to participate and bring that issue forward that you find relevant to you and you think can help us make a more informed and impactful climate action plan. Next on the list here, I see JP.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, thank you so much for doing this. I just want to touch on a couple of things. One was the website obviously needs to be much more accessible to foreign language speakers. A lot of the folks that are trying to get information have trouble navigating that website, even in English. So that's the other thing. The other thing was when we talk about affordability, which is really important to this climate action plan, and ensuring that there's going to be some affordable housing, that we also use what's called accessibility, or what's transportation accessibility or location accessibility, which means the cost of affordable housing is it's not affordable if you can't afford to own two vehicles and to drive and to spend all that mileage there's an additional burden, transportation burden that also should be calculated whenever we look at affordability. So affordable housing has to be tied with affordable transportation, whether that be through transit or through proximity to job centers or opportunity zones, schools, etc. So that was my main comment, and thank you very much.
Thank you, JP. Appreciate it. And thanks for bringing that forward here. So I'm seeing that's it for the raised hands. And then I think this is also inclusive of our phone call folks. And just checking out any kind of other Q&As. And again, just want to let everybody know, we'll be listing information on this presentation on our website, uploading the website slides themselves. There'll be the recording, which will be available as well. But yeah, kind of, while we have a slowdown in questions here, just really want to take the opportunity to, again, thank everybody for your participation here this evening. Again, it's just extremely informative for us. I want to thank everybody from the facilitating side, Kareem, Luis, and Kelly for doing the presentation and working through the questions to really help facilitate discussions. And then also kind of on the back end of the house, Jamie and Matt putting together the presentation, the logistics of everything, and helping really make sure that this was a smooth process for us. Really thank you for your efforts there. And we also had Megan Kelly and Claire Moss from the Climate Action Plan on the team, also supporting on the back end. It's been really helpful. If you guys have any additional questions as they come up, please feel free to reach out and email. But again, thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for your feedback, and please feel free to stay engaged and sign up again for our listserv if you haven't, to find out more about our upcoming workshops. So really appreciate it. And then, yeah, Kareem, is there any kind of last words you want to provide here? Thank the participants or anybody else.
Well, just want to thank everybody and I'm going to reiterate things that folks have said, but primarily just the variety and the range of feedback, ideas, and just reminders for things that we need to keep in mind to make sure that we're not forgetting really important things. And I think also, I want to answer my good friend Clovis, because we do go back, and I don't believe that the cutting off of the question on white supremacy was a reflection of not wanting to answer the question. I think it was mostly a reflection of the comments sliding down. But aside from sounding potentially defensive here, Clovis, I think that the one thing I want to keep pointing to is what Kelly mentioned at the beginning, which was the framework for a future when the County Board of Supervisors declared racism a public health crisis. That, I think, is one of the indicators that we're not avoiding the conversation in the region anymore, that we're not trying to say that there are not systemic oppression issues that we need to figure out how to abolish, eradicate, and get past finally. So if you didn't feel heard with that tonight, I just want to keep reminding us that that is something that the county did put on the record, that we do have the Office of Equity and Racial Justice that has some folks that we know who are heading that shop now. And they're just a movement within the region that I think should give us a little bit of faith and confidence that we're moving in the right direction.
Thanks, Corinne. Really appreciate the clarification there. But again, thank you, everybody. It's been a wonderful evening for us. We have a lot of work to do to sift through all these comments and find out how they can help additionally inform the next steps of our process. So thank you so much. We look for continued conversations, and have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.